Madam Chair, we're live.
Thank you. Today is February 11th and the time is 5:08 p.m. I'm calling to order the Baldwin Park Stakeholders Oversight Committee regular meeting. Pastor Jackson, can you please lead us in an invocation?
Father, we come before you, Jesus Christ, in giving you praise, glory, and honor and thanksgiving, Lord. I thank you, Lord, for this committee, Lord God, that you give us wisdom and knowledge and understanding in how to make decisions that are profitable for the citizens here in Baldwin Park. Lead, guide, and direct us. In the name of the Lord, we pray. Amen.
Amen. And now if we can please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Face the flag, put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Clerk, Mr. Sines, can I please have roll call?
Absolutely, Madam Chair. Chair Lara,
Here.
Vice Chair Pastor Jackson,
Here.
Member Hernandez, Member Mata,
Here.
Member Orozco, Member Rodriguez,
Here.
Member Van Wyn.
Here.
Let the record reflect that Member Hernandez is not present. Thank you.
Thank you. At this moment, we will open public communications. City Clerk Sands, is there anyone looking to speak?
At this time, we have not received any speaker cards, so you can open up.
Okay. So if anyone else is looking to speak but did not fill out a speaker card, please step up to the podium and state your name.
La chingada. One of the things that I've noticed that we're buying 11 new cars for the police department. Plus, we're approving for a study to where the park is going to be, sports complex. We still don't have the property, for one thing. We already have another park going on Main Street over there at the end of the Main Street, which that park doesn't even have no parking. Why are we spending so much money into something that I've talked to some residents on that new park that you guys are putting. They totally disagree because there's no parking. I don't know where you guys get your studies. It was totally a shocker for me last Wednesday. And another thing is we're trying to help the youth right here in Baldwin Park. One of the things you guys have to follow up on each organization, if you belong to any district like American or National or East Side or anything, you have your boundaries. Those kids have to go to that sports. National, you have your boundaries. Now, American have their boundaries. The reason they have boundaries is because at the end of the year, let's say you have a team that's outstanding. I had a team. 2013, took them all the way. District 19, we won District 19. If I would have had somebody from another area, they would be qualified. They would have just kicked us out. You can't have that. So it's just like the road runners. The kids that play for the road runners, they have to be registered in Baldwin Park to go play. Their grades have to be 2.8 at least. and they have to be from Bone Park. It's a couple of years back, Coach Morales had a championship game. They went all the way to Florida and they took it all the way. But all the kids were from Bone Park. But we have to look at all that. Just because they're from other areas, they cannot come and play in Bone Park. So look at that, or we make a decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Greg Tuttle, business owner. Going through your, all your expenditures here, you raised $12.8 million, approved 8.89, spent 169,000 so far, balance of 3.8. And over 3/4 of this is not really for the real community. It's for the city expenditures, which isn't right. This is why we're here and we're going to continue to be here. And we're going to be putting this on YouTube with everybody's names and when this stuff gets approved, because obviously we dropped the ball and not coming here and watching how things are being spent. The thing is we're spending $86,000 on this plan for the sports complex with no land approved yet. Nobody's done any homework or went over to the school board and done any initiative. Mr. Rios and me are planning on going over there. We just found out the school board meetings tonight. And so, but I want to see these plans. So we need to go over there and see what's going on. And move them along, which is your responsibilities too. Because we don't have any new stuff on the agenda tonight. You guys just come here and I'm here. But that's part of your job. Find out new things that you could do for the community. So when we go in here, the other thing I want to request is warrants and demands. We don't know where the checks are. The check's written. So we need, just like city council, we need a warrants and demand. We need to know what the check was written for and who. And we need that approved to where you guys can come in there and we can see that the money went somewhere and was paid for. And I think that if you guys start looking at this is your money and not the city and who cares, just like we did this stupid $130,000 for those cards, which no proof that it's going to help the city. And it was only for restaurants. What about my business? What about all the other businesses in Baldwin Park? So we don't count? I don't understand that. That's not right. You people need to understand there's other businesses beside restaurants here. Because I know the city manager doesn't understand that, and he has no proof that it benefits the city. So we need to start doing the balance and checks, because we're going to be watching. We're going to be at all these meetings. I know it's going to be aggravating, but we're going to be here, and we're going to watch, and we're going to do checks and balances here. And it's not going to be any more this buying a tractor, buying a truck. That's ridiculous. That has nothing to do with benefiting the people. I won't let you say my 15 seconds.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak? Okay, seeing as there are none, I actually do want to, before we move on to new business, to acknowledge the memory of two dear members of the SOC extended family. We have Antonio Hernandez, father of our own SOC member, Jorge Hernandez. He passed away last week on Friday, February 7th. And then we have Claudia D. Jackson, wife of our own SOC member, Pastor Jackson, who passed away last month on January 9th. Our sympathies to the Hernandez and Jackson families.
Thank you.
So with that,
Chair,
yes,
if I may just make a clarification on the public speaking. It was stated that there was over $8 million spent, and there was a balance of $3 million. It's actually the other way around. There's $3,987,819 that have been either spent or committed, but there is a balance of $8,890,167 that we still have in the fund, okay?
Okay,
That was just for clarification.
thank you. So moving on to new business, our first item is a presentation by David Voltz Design Landscape Architects. And this has to do with the sports complex.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to highlight the significance of today's milestone. While it is not a conclusive milestone, it definitely is a milepost, important milestone in this long journey. And I call it a long journey because it has already been a long journey from the very inception of the idea of the measure. For many of us, most of us, if not all of us, were involved in the inception of the Measure BP. But the dream, the goal, the aspiration of a sports complex that we can call our own right here in our very own city took form. And, it came our way from many folks in the community. We picked up along the way a big champion of this in Mayor Pro Tem Damian. And little by little, this has taken form. And, while we have been working on this in earnest, there's some impatience that may set in just because these projects take a long time. We know we don't have a site, but we know we can also make an effort to secure a site, if not more than one site. And so with the SOC's approval and the City Council's approval, we commissioned a designer that can put pen to paper, if you will, in some of the ideas that have already surfaced. The SOC members, yourselves, visited several sites with the purpose of picking up some of the best features that we could see in those facilities all throughout Southern California. And, we have community meetings and so on. But now we're formalizing this by launching a formal process, the development of a concept report. And we have professional designers doing it. So that's what you will see today, some ideas. The designers will also be asking for your feedback, of course, whether you remember the sites that we visited. I know some things definitely stood out for you. But this is intended to be a feedback session as well as, some guidelines from the designers on how they plan to go about developing the concept report. From today's stop here, this visit, we will go to the City Council and do a similar session. From the City Council, we will then convene the Collaborative Committee, which is made up of 2 members of the City Council and 2 members of the school board. And then we will do community meetings. But in terms of formalizing what will eventually be a negotiation process or a conversation or actually a negotiation process with the school board, we're just around the corner from that. And so, that will be in parallel as this concept report unfolds. We will pick up the formal conversations with the school district. So with that, Manny, if you can please kick off and launch the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Zaldivar. At this point, I have the pleasure of introducing our architectural team and design team. First of all, I'd like to introduce Gary Vasquez, the Director of Design, and Brian Avalos is a studio manager, and I've had the pleasure of observing their work for the past several decades. So I am thrilled that we have an opportunity to work with them on this project as well as the project presented a few nights ago at the City Council meeting. So Gary, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, and we are very excited to present to all of you, and we feel very excited about the direction this is going. And I just want to echo a couple of the things that we just heard. We're here to kind of receive your feedback, and this is the direction that we want to move into. And so we want to make sure that we're incorporating everybody's ideas and their thoughts and their experiences of what they've already perceived and what they've taken away from their prior site visits. I'd like to, first start off by going to the next page. In essence, we wanted to make sure that what we were seeing is the statistics of the city of Baldwin Park. I think a very particular statistic that we see right away in park accessibility would be that there's approximately 0.3 acres of park space per 1,000 people. And to put that into context, if we see to the right and county average, which is here, we see that the county average is 3.3 acres of park space per 1,000 people. If we pan over to the map on the right, we see that we have 5 parks, and in terms of park needs, the city of Baldwin Park is very needed of facilities and of fields and places of recreation. With our population size, approximately 0.5% right now of land is dedicated to parks, and the county average is 79% of population lives in area with moderate to very high needs of parks. Another one that I want to highlight is that approximately 22% live within walking distance of a park, but the county average is at 49%. So these statistics, what they tell us is that the city of Baldwin Park is park poor. We're very needy of this space. We can go to the next slide. With that, we wanted to analyze the existing parks that we currently have and what they're bringing to us and what they provide. So first we have Barnes Park. It's providing 0.53 park acres per 1,000 people. And the features of it would be an athletic field, a basketball court, fitness zone, a community center, picnic shelters, playground, and a splash pad. Second, we would have Walnut Creek Nature Park. That's approximately 4.56 acres. That's providing 0.94 park acres per 1,000 people. And it features, again, a picnic shelter, restroom, paved pathways, bridge, playground, fitness stations, picnic tables, benches, and native plants. Our next park would feature 1.37 acres, and that's contributing 0.07 park acres per 1,000 people. With its features of a lit basketball court, restroom, spectator seating, and paved pathways. Morgan Park comes in at 8.06 acres, contributing 0.24 park acres per 1,000 people, and features an outdoor amphitheater, picnic shelters, restrooms, benches, playground, fitness zone, basketball courts, a full soccer, football field, splash pads, and paved pathways. And our last would be Hilda Solis Park, 1.96 acres, contributing 1.5 park acres per 1,000 people, with its features of having a playground, tot lot, skate park, basketball court, half courts, a picnic shelter, restroom, and paved pathways. Next slide, please. So here is something that we got from all of you as in the prior site visits. And with that, we wanted to make sure that we were kind of building these case studies of what we're seeing, what you have seen, what the highlights can be, and how we build kind of the direction where we're going. So one of the first ones that we wanted to highlight, and this will kind of tie into the later slides, is Big League Dreams West Covina. It's approximately 34.5 acres, 6 replica baseball fields, has stadium-style seating, batting cages, indoor pavilion for soccer leagues, stadium club restaurants, and a playground. Next, please. The next would be Shoe Family YMCA of Upland. This has a 2 acre, it's 2 acres. It's an indoor facility, has a swimming pool, basketball courts, gym, restroom, group exercise classes, a new recovery center, a kids zone, locker rooms, and showers. Next slide. One of the last ones would be here, Fremont Park, which is a 7.9 acres, has a community building, a multi-purpose athletic fields, picnic pavilions and barbecues, water fountains, pickleball courts, tennis courts, fitness equipment, playground and splash pad, and basketball courts. Something that I want to highlight from each of these, if we look at Fremont Park, while it has a lot of facilities, it has more of a park style that people can enjoy, right? We have playgrounds, open grass, open turf for everybody to enjoy. If we go back to the Shoe Family YMCA, that was more of a facility that had a lot of the amenities indoors, very large building. And if we go even further back to the big league fields, that was primarily dominated by fields, a big attraction for leagues and for revenue generating sports. Additional site visits on the same slide was La Puente City Park, Southgate Park Sports Center, Chino Hills Community Park, and the Care Youth Facility. So we definitely want to use in all that. So now knowing, the statistics of where the city is, the case studies or the site visits that you guys were able to see, and then using all of this information, and not necessarily options, but we want to present directions. And so we just, came up with some just example sites to play around with and fit these different amenities. And it'll be in the same order of having, big league fields, big facility, and more of a park style. So if we go to the next slide. Here we have a 10-acre site. If we were to reference a park for this one, it'd be their big leagues, Dream West Covinas, and we would replicate a lot of the same amenities, right? And using kind of the square footages and the same layouts that we have used at other parks and that are required for these type of features, we would fit a restroom and a concession building on this one, 140 parking spaces, 4 little league fields with 250 feet foul lines. We could fit 6 U8 soccer fields on top of that. And we can have a playground and open turf. So that is something, just again, not a final layout, but something that we could explore in here, right? So if we go to the next page and explore in a different shape, we have another 10-acre site. And this, we could have a park reference for the Shoe Family YMCA of Upland, right? Where we have a larger building that fits a lot of these things. And in here, we could have an indoor recreation facility about an acre in size. With that, we could also fit 3 basketball courts, 6 pickleball courts, 4 tennis courts, 2 little league fields with 200-foot foul lines, 1 U8 soccer field. We can have a championship U10 soccer field and 160 parking spaces. Again, so in this style, we're exploring more of having a larger facility and being able to fit things around it. And if we go to the last slide, we did another 10-acre site, and in our reasoning for doing this is we're also tasked to look at a 20-acre site. But if we explore 3 10-acre sites, then we can mix and match and be able to. Our vision was to be able to kind of mesh this, and if we go to a 20-acre site, to be able to pull from all these things. In this slide, we have another 10-acre and a more rectangular shape with a reference of Fremont Park. Where the amenities could be a community center about 0.25 acres, so a quarter of the large building, right? In that, we could have 2 basketball courts, 6 pickleball courts, 2 U8 soccer fields, 1 U19 soccer field, a playground, open green space, 100 parking spaces, and 1 little league field with 300-foot foul lines. So with that, I'd like to, open or for any questions or comments. But again, this is, more of the direction of where we wanted to go and really kind of exploring everything since, we see the prior statistics of how needy the city is for these facilities.
I have a question.
Yes.
How many sites do we have or will we have from the school district? We're planning from the school district giving up property? Or what?
By no means wanting to be pretentious here because, but 4 schools have closed down
Schools?
or
Okay. Is this on one site or several sites, or will we get a property,
the average size is around 10 acres. Some are smaller than 9 and one is at least over 10
Okay.
acres.
We went on the trip and what I saw, at least I thoroughly enjoyed. And I think if Baldwin Park kids and adults could use what we saw, I think that would be great for Baldwin Park. 4 schools have closed, you said?
4 sites.
4 sites have closed. What sites are we looking at for the sports arena?
Well, we're still looking generically at 10-acre site. The school themselves, the school district themselves are going through a feasibility review of what they feel is best, a best disposition of those sites, if it's going to be for, any one purpose. Elwyn Elementary School, which was the first one that was decommissioned 2 years ago, as an example, is currently being utilized as a staff development center. And whether that ends up being a permanent use for that site for the school district may remain to be seen, but they're using the buildings for that purpose.
Anybody else have questions? I just had one right now and it's probably, I don't know if it's related, but the aesthetics come later, right?
The what, Madam Chair?
The aesthetics, like what like quality of things we're actually putting into the design once it's,
Yeah,
After.
for example, I was picking up on, as an example of an observation, whether the potential for the overall space that may be available or not, whether that limited your thinking to not incorporate adult sports as an example, because, we've talked about how the city currently does not provide opportunities for adults to play, and especially say baseball, soccer, softball, and youth sports for sure, little league size and what have you. But whether you think sports facilities also should be incorporated. That kind of you're thinking. I know for Greg, you had talked about there being indoor sports facilities, whether it's a large gym, which you did have, or indoor sports.
Yeah, indoor arena, it changes the atmosphere of the sport, like the indoor arena at Field of Dreams, they play soccer in there. And it's definitely a different vibe than playing outside. I like to see that incorporated, I like plan example 3 so far in the layout here because it has multi-purpose areas on top of layers. So you have 2 soccer fields and a baseball field that encompasses the same area. We talked about that when we went on the trips that since we're dealing with 10 acres, putting layouts over the top of each other, but having maybe a indoor basketball arena or a soccer field, it definitely changes the atmosphere, and you know, kids and adults would enjoy just a different scenario, not just playing in the park, playing in type of an arena and hearing the ball smash against the wall or something like that, you know. So I think we get, I mean, example three is there with a couple of additions, I think. It looks nice. The layout, I like the multi-purpose. Even, I don't know, the basketball court, maybe also something else, but I know the pickleball courts are much smaller than a tennis court. So we can encompass more pickleball courts, and I'm at the park every day, so I could tell you, is it any of the Thursday nights they have pickleball or Tuesday night?
I believe it's Tuesday night, but we are also kicking off a adult basketball league.
Okay.
So once again, we are very short on space.
Yeah,
So
and I mean, you could go there on Tuesday night and there's people walking in with their pickleball paddles and gear, and that's the facilities being used for pickleball, and it's I never seen it until I actually went on these trips, but it's catching momentum. I mean, definitely it's a well-used space instead of having a tennis court, and I think it's we can have more courts with pickleball in that area. It'll be well used, especially in an outdoor arena here in Baldwin Park, you know. So that's my 2 cents there.
I do have a question. Do we have an ETA on when we are going to either request the school board about the opportunity we have for the space, or who is going to be scheduling that?
So the entry into that, know that there have been ongoing informal conversations, including some of you in the SOC. But the entry into that discussion will be when we come to the collaborative committee, which will be in late March.
So to piggyback on that, we won't have to go to another board meeting to make our intentions known. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is because we last met in November. We knew it was an election year. It's a completely different board. And so I'm wondering if that should also happen before March. I don't know. Just because I know we did do that last time during public comment.
Yep. Very good. Let me give it some thought and see, yeah. Going the collaborative right now, we're thinking late March. But yeah, about going to the board before.
Just an idea, because like I said, it's a whole new board. So just putting it back on the radar before the collaboratives, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, and I do agree, because not, you have all new board members, who knows that if they are even considering, something like this.
Okay.
Hello, thank you for sharing the designs with us. I had a couple of questions. I'm just gonna preference, I'm not like super knowledgeable on sports and stuff, but I just want to know the difference between these soccer fields specifically, because I'm seeing that the first example has U8 soccer fields compared to like a U10, and then the last one having a U19. And as we mentioned, we might want to bring in adult sports, especially if we're launching a basketball team, if we want to do that with soccer in the future. Does that mean that that would not be possible in two of the examples, or only in one, or what can play in those fields?
Yeah, we didn't have text on any of those graphics. It was a very generic graphic. It was the graphics were just to kind of give you an idea of what could fit within a 10-acre site, if you will. And depending on the program, whether you want heavy soccer, heavy baseball, of course, each site's gonna be different based on the community wants and needs. To answer your question regarding the soccer, we did identify the U8s and I think a U10, maybe a U12, and a U11 field. For adults that would play soccer in the evenings, it would probably be the U19 size field. That is the larger fields. It's at 210 feet by 330 feet in length. It's high school and older kids would probably play on that larger field. The U8s, usually 8-year-olds would play on those size field, and that field is as small as 120 feet by 180 feet. So depending on how the program develops, the direction that the park will provide recreational value, that's going to kind of dictate how things will get laid out within the park itself. So did that answer your question? I hope it did.
Yes, it just made me believe that I am leaning more towards the ones that are centered to both adults and kids, just because I think the first example is really like, and I know we really want to promote or youth sports, but it feels like the sizing with only little leagues and then the U8 soccer fields only playing like 8-year-olds, that would be very limited for that one.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I do want to highlight is we took the opportunity to make 3 very different sites. And so again, what Gary was talking about is like the program will kind of dictate that. But we wanted to, in this case, kind of show what the difference is in the fields as well. And dictating that, once we get into the, especially like in league sports, and there is a difference, and especially in soccer fields, and one size doesn't fit all.
Yeah, good to know because that's just things I think it would be cool if we had 20 acres because then it could be a whole kid area and then like a whole adult area. That'd be a
Correct. Yeah, we could,
combination.
and again, back to the program, like if whatever we'd like to invest in is what we would focus, right? But in a hypothetical, we would have some dedicated to kids, older. We could have a championship core of a field. It's again dictating by the direction we would like to go. But we definitely want to take this opportunity and show that there are different sizes, especially if we're going to call it, if it's dictated by sports, then we would want to be serious about and be respectful about the criteria that they demand.
Mr. Sandoval, I got a question for you. I think I understood what you said. You say late March, there's going to be a collaborative board or meeting happen. I just want to clarify the verbiage. Is it collaborative from us with the school board? And who's presenting, who's going to be in that meeting?
Yeah, thank you, board member. The collaborative is actually a formal committee formed by both the city and the school district to comply with Brown Act rules. The committee, it's only 2 members of each body, since each body has 5 members. Neither body can have a majority in it. So it's purely advisory in their role, but it's also intended for it to be a forum of common collaboration between the 2 entities with policymakers in it.
Okay.
It's one thing for us staff to meet with their staff, which we do all the time. But when the policymakers, in this case, the council and the board members are in this committee, so that meeting would be very much like this meeting. The designers would present similar slides. They will adjust after each meeting, depending on, what feedback they're getting. But it'll be a very similar presentation with no decision making other than feedback.
Okay. It would be public as well with the public invited and they can, right?
Yes.
Okay. Gentlemen, I do have a question for you. So for based on because we talked about how we will incorporate the school district with, if they have state champs and games like that, we can incorporate them in just a way to attract them. Would the site be enough, if that's successful, would the site be enough to hold all of the attendance, the capacity?
I would think we're both itching to answer this question. I think that's very much dependent on what the sport is, and again, being able, like if it's soccer, having a pitch that is the championship size, whether if it's basketball, having the facility to be able to hold that, with if we're using stadium seating, tennis, I think is again, we want to make sure to have championship parameters. That if that's the program, then we can easily kind of explore that and accommodate for not only I'm thinking Gary step in, but I'm thinking about the parameters of the court and the people that it would attract according to whatever event and sport it is.
So based on the outcome of the collaborative meeting or whatever going on further, that could change the vision of this?
I think
Certainly, because, there'll be three of this kind of meetings, you guys, city council, the collaborative, and then two public meetings, one of which would be intended to be targeted for just the sports community, meaning all the leagues and all the sports, all the folks who participate in some form of sport. I don't know. I mean, pickleball is such a craze still. Whether there's a formal league for it or not, they'll be invited. Youth sports, indoor youth sports, and adults. So we'll reach out to the entire sports community in the city. So one of those two public meetings will be targeted toward the sports community in the city.
Yeah, and if I may interject, in regards to the community engagement process, those meetings in particular will help guide this project in terms of what they would like to see. And also in regards to talking about some of the sizes of the fields and or facilities, please keep in mind if we are looking for regulation size courts and or facilities, it's going to be a much larger footprint. So when Gary is chatting about the 8 and under, 8U, 10U, that represents 8 and under, 10 and under. Then 19 and under is the largest field. So obviously, if it's the largest field, it could accommodate adults, but it's also going to utilize the largest footprint. So we just need to be conscious of that. I tend to think in terms of the space, we may or may not have access to a multi overlay might be the best. And tonight we are not going to design the sports complex. The purpose of this evening is just to start the conversation in terms of public engagement process and what we would like to see in terms of features, because depending on the population you speak to within the community, you'll probably get a different answer. The football teams want football fields, soccer teams want soccer fields, but those can overlay on each other uh, as well as the baseball diamonds. And then you have to refer to the softball diamonds. But I'd also like to bring to the committee's attention that we also have underutilized facilities currently within the city. And I'll use as an example the old daycare facility that's been vacant for the past few years. As a matter of fact, Coach has his Tough Kids program there, and so we could definitely repurpose that facility, and it's been on our radar. And hopefully in August we will apply for a grant. But nonetheless, I think this sports complex conversation may evolve into spill into other facilities that we have within the community. Gary, I'm not sure if you know off the top of your head, at Barnes Park, we're getting a few soccer fields over the towers, the refiltration system. What are those? 8 and under, 10 and under?
Right now you have two, I believe, U12 size soccer fields. And if you wanted to overlay the U8s, you can get probably up to three, maybe even four of the smaller fields overlaid on the bigger fields. So
Okay, great. And in terms of facilities within the city of Baldwin Park, that Baldwin Park is responsible for, we really do not have a soccer field or a football field. Now we have four corners at Morgan Park that we call a soccer field, football field, and we've made it work for decades. But I don't know what the exact measurement. I would probably refer to a 10 and under type of soccer field with divots and a drain and everything else. So it's quite a challenge to participate. But as I mentioned before, we have made it work. When Barnes Park comes online, that will be a big plus to the community. But in terms of planning 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now, we definitely need facilities of this nature, as well as additional green space. As highlighted early in the presentation, we have 0.3 per 1,000 acres, per thousand in terms of the population. Los Angeles County has 3.3 acres per thousand. So we are definitely short. So we would love to pick up some additional green space. Thank you.
I would like to ask a question. Go ahead.
I just wanted to ask something before I forget, and thank you for that, Manny, because I'm wondering, as we're having these community meetings, if we can have inventory of what we do have at our other parks, because I think it would help as far as making the decision of duplicating or actually prioritizing maybe things that we don't already have somewhere else.
Sure, we could definitely supply that information.
Okay. The question that I put down here, we will have tournaments, people coming in from other cities to compete here with Baldwin Park. Question is, will we have the ample parkings for them? I've been to places that we had to drive around and around for parking. Will we have ample parking for if we have tournaments with other people coming in or et cetera?
Again, it's part of the program and the further exploration of the design, but in these examples, we wanted to make sure to highlight that parking does need to be considered in the overall space of the footprint that we're acquiring. A lot of these fields and a lot of the amenities that we're providing require a parking count, so there will be a minimum that we have to meet. Plus, we will have to also consider what we just talked about in special events or what the program will be fully for the park. But yes, committee member, we're definitely considering parking as an amenity above what the standard would be.
Chair, if I may. I do have a question, and thank you for the presentation. On the indoor recreation facility, I know you have the example too. Wouldn't the cost be astronomically higher if we incorporate an indoor facility to the design?
Compared to what? To not having one?
Compared to, as an example, you have, so on your example 1, right, that's all kind of open space.
Oh, yes.
But your example 2 includes an indoor facility. So wouldn't the cost of building this or constructing this out be astronomically a lot higher, incorporating an indoor facility versus all being an outside space, green space?
Yeah, the cost is higher since we're building, a building essentially, and so the cost, is higher than just using like open fields.
Yeah.
But I think that's,
But my concern with the indoor facility, although it looks nice and it's good for rainy days and stuff like that is not only the cost of construction, but also the maintenance of it, right? And then if, knock on wood, we go into another type of pandemic in the future, then that's going to be kind of something that we're not going to be able to utilize because it's going to be indoors. So those are things that we just want to keep top of mind when we're, going through the process of designing. And then another one is obviously the space, right? So if we could try to get two sites, then maybe we can divide to where we're not incorporating baseball, football, basketball all in one, kind of dividing if we're going to do baseball and football in one, or actually soccer and football in one, so they can kind of do multi-layering. The design just has to be really, really on point. And then one of the biggest things is parking, obviously. So we have to make sure that we do have adequate parking, because if we do have some type of tournament where, let's just say there's a big football or baseball game, and parking is going to be needed. So those are all things that I think that we need to take into consideration when coming up with these designs. But I think, Enrique, it's going to be very important that we start these conversations back up with the school district to find out, hey, A, are we wasting our time here? Or are you really serious about, doing this joint use project? One of the things that I've always said is, you've taken these schools from our community. It's important that you give them back to our community. So that's one of the ways I've kind of pushed it to them. But if it is, we really need to be serious about, there's 4 schools that have closed down: Pleasant View, Central, Margaret Heath, and Alwyn. And I believe, as you mentioned, Alwyn is currently being occupied. So that leaves us 3 options, unless there's another option in 1 to 2 years from now that they may close down, which to me, a middle school would make a lot more sense, because it's going to give us a bigger footprint, such as Olive Middle School or even Jones Middle School, because that'll give us a bigger footprint there. And then the location of where they're at as well. So I think that it's going to be very important that when we start discussing these design options, that we have to really, really sit down with the school district and get this collaborative committee going ASAP, so that we can decide, is this something that you're really going to, move forward on? Because I think we've been talking about this for the last year, and they really have not given us a commitment. So I think it's time that this year, and sooner rather than later, we really get down to it and say, we really need to figure out if you're going to work with us on this. If not, then, stop wasting our time on it. So thank you. That's just what I wanted to say.
Well, I mean, is whether we're willing to take no for an answer, right? Because like you said, these are community assets. So the importance of going to the communities for them to also have a say on what they would like to see in this, what end up being community assets. But, yeah, definitely, we need to approach the school district.
I have a couple more questions also, sorry. One is for parking. Do you know if if the 160, like for some of these design, is compact, or is it just like, I don't know if it's regular parking of what you call it, or like,
We did want to use a standard dimension. We
Okay.
we don't want to,
Yeah,
we don't want to back ourselves into a corner. So and again, it's not necessarily. We just wanted to make sure that we're planning for that
Yeah.
space and everybody's able to see that that is a part of it.
Cool. And the second one is, I know Manny mentioned that sometimes soccer fields get like reformed for football fields. What size is that? Like, that soccer fields that usually get transformed into the football fields for like flag football or like kids football?
In terms of comparing the football field to a overlay,
field,
yeah. Soccer fields are usually wider than football fields. Lengthwise, a football field would fit within the 330-foot length of a soccer field. So it's actually, if you were to design a U19 size soccer field, it's plenty of space to accommodate a football field as well, or a standard football field.
So like a U10 soccer field would perfectly fit into a
Oh, that might
Yeah.
fit into a football field. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, for sure.
Because I'm just thinking like the first one probably wouldn't be able to transform into football field because they're all U8 compared to the second one. We would have at least one that can transfer into a football field.
Well, yeah, and I think what we'd like to say is like, you know, if we're looking at the standard dimension and just the dimension, but if we were to widen it even a little bit, then we could easily accommodate a lot more overlays, and that would be also part of the design study, and where we'll want to be.
Beautiful. And my last question that I could think of well, I have two more actually. Never mind. So for the indoor recreation facility, for example, two compared to the community center in example three, what are the differences? Because I noticed one's only 0.25 acres, while one is 1 full acre. Can you tell me more of what that thinking is like?
What we wanted to show there was basically a smaller community center and a larger community center. I think the smaller one is about a 1/4 acre in size. And I believe you got an opportunity to visit Columbus Tustin. They had a rec center there.
Well, it's another one, but one of what Gary likes to say is that one of the examples that we looked at is, in looking at and preparing for this is Columbus Tested, which has like one of the smaller recreational facilities in the area, which has a basketball court and a lot of multi-use rooms. But then compared to the shoe, YMCA, which is considered one of the larger facilities in the area, to be able to kind of compare and see how big of a contrast that is between both.
So would saying kind of the smaller one would incorporate maybe a basketball field and some workout classes, and the bigger one, like you said, have an indoor, like, can you give me an example, like an indoor soccer or?
A pool.
You could, Olympic-sized swimming pool in a larger, obviously, rec center or community building, community center there. And I think we actually show that in the graphic. There's
Swimming
within
pool,
the
yeah.
square, there's a rectangle. That's a Olympic-sized swimming pool. I'm not sure that it's appropriate for the community, but just to give you an idea, you can get, and I believe the shoe,
The shoe had a indoor soccer field,
Yeah,
which
and
was
I believe-
unique.
I believe that was 2 acres, correct? The
It was,
size?
yes, a very, very large indoor gymnasium, much like our community center, just a difference in terms of purpose because it also had a basketball court. Ours has a basketball court, martial arts, games room, so probably very similar to our community center, just the purposes were a little different and focused on different areas.
So like an indoor rec center could possibly have, like, based on these images, a soccer field for, I'm guessing, like U10 or U8 with a running field maybe with attached to it as well, is what we're thinking for that 1 acre.
And the possibilities kind of can really give us a lot of flexibility on what we want there, right? Indoor basketball court, right? Gyms, like, karate class, like it can give us the full amplitude of where we're trying to reach there. And like Gary said, he provided a footprint of what would be an Olympic-sized pool, right? And so again, not that that's saying that that's appropriate for what we want yet, but it gives us a vision of what we can fit in there.
Yeah, and I just want to say I'm really for the indoor rec center. I know it's higher cost in the long run, but also creates so much opportunity because even though we don't have rain, we do have excessive heat, and those indoor centers will make sure that no kid is at risk of overheating on the outside, which is, I think, the real threat that we have a lot of the time here. And also for these designs, just thinking about spaces that for after a long day of like a tournament where people are going to sit down and eat afterwards, I think is something you want to incorporate, and also bathrooms. That's my question is, where are the bathrooms here? Like, what's the plan with that?
Yeah, the facility can accommodate bathrooms, and of course, in our overall design, depending on the direction, we'd make sure to accommodate what the needs are and based upon feedback.
Yeah, historically, the restrooms are attached to the snack bar area. Hypothetically speaking, if a Little League is having a tournament or a baseball or softball game, they would have a snack bar and the restrooms would be attached to it, as well as a soccer group and any other activity we would have in play that day.
Any other questions?
Just on the restroom thing, that was my question too. Is there a minimum per acre for a facility like this to have 10 restrooms, 30 restrooms, something like that, that facility, or is there a distance where this facility is at? You have to have a restroom located for the community?
Yes, there are requirements for both indoor and outdoor facilities, and based upon the uses of the amenities as well.
And then it's not in this diagram or picture here, but seating for not only baseball, but soccer and that'll be incorporated later on in the design schemes. Just because the layouts of our current baseball fields and everything else, they have very limited space for seating. Baldwin Park American has a dugout with 2 feet to a fence, and that's the senior field. And the other one's very small at east side. Also, it has a fence and a train. So just speaking in general, you know, facility to actually be in a bleacher scenario or have an area for a, you know, fold out chair to be able to watch a game or watch soccer or pickleball. Just future reference for that. Thank
Yeah,
you.
we'll definitely keep that in mind, that seating is important. And again, I think back to whatever, you know, the court or the field that it'd be in, like if we're gonna host, we're looking to host championship level amenities, then we would definitely need to accommodate seating for that as well.
I do have a question, Enrique. When you get the date for the collaborative meeting, if it's going to be open to the public, is there any way we can request the Baldwin Park District to send a communication through the parent square to notify the parents that that meeting's going to be held? That way they are informed and they can give feedback and or provide any, you know, question or maybe cheer us on in this endeavor?
It's a great idea. Yes, we will do that.
Anybody else? So we will move on to our second item. Thank you so much for your presentation and answering our questions.
Thank you.
The Measure BP Sales Tax Financial Update.
Good evening, committee chair and members. Since this is the first meeting in the year, I am very happy to see all of you, and I want to wish all of you and everybody Happy New Year. Since this is the first meeting, yes, I'm happy to provide you the update on the TUT. As of December 2024, ending 2024, we have received $12 million from the TUT since the inception. And in January 2025, we received about $583,298. And we have incurred over $122,000 interest at the end of the quarter in 2024. In the next meeting, I will bring you the update for the total interest that we have generated from the end of 2024, which bring us the total projected revenue with $12,878,000. With all those revenue we have received, we have committed about $3.988 million for 11 programs and projects for the community. And among these $3.988 million, we have spent about $169,600. And with all of that, We have projected fund balance as of January 31st, 2025 in the amount of $8,890,000 in the fund balance. And feel free if you have any questions.
No questions. Thank you.
Hope this number pleases everybody. And with your recommendation, we have changed the presentation, provide more details in the table. That's why I do not go into every single line item. Thank you again.
Yes, thank you. It was noticed. Okay, so our third item today is the Stakeholder Oversight Committee November 12th meeting minutes approval. Can I get a motion?
I make a motion that the minutes will be accepted.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. We don't need a vote on this, right? Do we?
I think.
On the minute? Yeah,
Event.
you vote.
Okay,
So we have a motion. We have a motion by Vice Chair Jackson and a second by Member Mata. Member Mata,
Oh, yes.
Member Orozco,
Yes.
Member Rodriguez,
Yes.
Member Van Nguyen,
Yes.
Vice Chair Jackson,
Yes.
Chair Lara.
yes,
Motion passes 6-0.
thank you. It's been a long minute. So next we'll move on to Stakeholders Oversight Committee, staff requests and communications. Is there any from my colleagues?
I think just for next meeting, an update on where the grants have ended up, if the city had decided or any movement from city council about that would be nice. Because I know that's the last thing we talked about last year.
Excuse me, Sasha, I'm sorry. I'm hard of hearing.
Sorry. Just a grant update on where we end up giving, who ended up getting the grant money from last time or city
Oh,
council.
yes, thank you. Yes, so council approved, there was the one organization from St. John's, which we further vetted the constitutionality of what is called a sectarian or a parochial institution, and we could not, so they were essentially disqualified. So all the others were approved for council with the caveat that we do still yet what final review of the roster and the 501c3 standing, which we're almost completed with that. We have not issued any grant award letters yet. I think that will happen next week.
Amazing. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I'm missing something here. Why was St. John active? Why? Or were they? For the grant? Aren't they faith-based or no? I don't know. Asking a question.
The grants that they have not been, the letters of awards have not been issued yet.
Oh, they haven't issued. Okay.
They should be
Enrique-
happening next week.
Enrique, I think that his question was why was St. John's disqualified?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. There's a provision in the California Constitution that prevents public dollars in being used for a parochial school or a parochial purpose. And, we couldn't find a way to not be in compliance with that constitutional provision. So, we made the determination that they were not eligible.
Does that include all faith-based or just?
That would include all religious institutions.
I'm gonna change that. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, with that, since there isn't anything else, we are going to adjourn this meeting. I'm gonna go ahead and move that we end the meeting for the night if no one has any objection. Our meeting is closed at 6:17 PM. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We look forward to seeing you next month.
Thank you.